Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, Chad? Chad.
Chad Cow, what up? How's it going?
How's it going, guys? Sorry, I'm a little bit late to the party here.
All good, just getting going.
Don't mind me, just writing some code.
Nice.
Surely nothing important. 63 people in here already.
What's the largest space we've ever had? I think it's like 250. I want to say.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't know when that might have been though. Maybe around Terra. I feel like we might have had those kinds of numbers.
Yeah, probably makes sense.
I remember, I forget if it was this space or another space, but it might have been like during the Terra collapse. I think we had like six or 800 once.
Oh, crazy.
But I don't remember if it was the THORChain Weekly or if it was a different space. But we'll see what kind of numbers we post today. I think this will be the biggest in a while.
You know what's funny is that like it kind of should be right because you know we've been performing so well as a project, right? Everything's been like all the numbers are up, everything's going well. Arguably, we're in a better place today. Not arguably, we certainly are definitively in a better place today than we were, at those moments.
And we've got the best spaces on Twitter, and we've been consistent. All right, consistent in quotes. I'm doing air quotes. We're being consistent about it for like at least 2 years now. We've been doing these spaces, so it's like maybe not. We don't do it obviously every single week, but like we do. We have not ever stopped doing them at any point. I think maybe at the lowest cadence, maybe we skipped like 2 weeks in a row or something like that.
Right, right. I think it's about right.
That qualifies as consistent in my book.
Yeah, we're good. It's not like we need to catch up every single week. There's always stuff going on. So, but
Totally,
yeah.
but I do miss that season of just spaces absolutely popping off. So I'm excited for crypto Twitter to get back into full swing, hopefully, and have just like impromptu spaces whenever people feel like it, and see the community popping up spaces. Like that's how you and I, Cow, like even got into this in the first place. So I'm excited to see like that kind of be the energy on Twitter again.
Yeah, back in the day, I was just like, I just DM'd Chad Thoreau. I was like, hey, we should do just Twitter Spaces, and then we just started doing them, and yeah, and then this thing started, and it kind of like turned the other spaces into this, just kind of merged them. But now we just talk about like all the stuff that's going on with THORChain, so people can actually get up to speed.
Let's go. I mean, it's been a really boring week, so I'm not sure we have anything to talk about. But
Did the so we remember so that's that live stream we did earlier this week. That was legendary. That's one of those moments that I'm gonna remember for a long time for sure. We were doing a live stream while Rune hit $6. Chad's $6 live stream. That was just amazing. We had Pluto up in there.
Dude,
yeah,
so I just popped in and Pluto starts pulling up tractors for sale. Like what is going on here? It's
he was
like,
he was adamant. He really wanted to show us his tractors. He was like, "Give me,
yeah,
let me share. Let me screen share. I want to screen share. I want to show my tractors." I'm just like,
he's feeling good about those paper gains, and figured he'd splurge on a new tractor. I
I
guess
guess so.
that's
He's
what
gonna,
we all do here. So
he's gonna,
seems
he's gonna,
reasonable.
he's gonna blow his rune load on a tractor. It was funny, like imagine like some point in the distant future, Rune hits like something crazy, like $1,000, and then we just like remember that day when we had a live stream for $6. That was the day.
Dude, if that happens, I'll buy a tractor. I have no use for a tractor. I'll buy a tractor. Just deck it out in like THORChain,
Well,
like wrap
how
it in like mint green.
how else are you gonna get around your mansion? I mean, the tractor's the only way to go, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll build some like underground bunker using the tractor or something to protect all the ledgers.
You turn into like a doomsday prepper, Chad Thoreau, with a shovel and a tractor, just digging in case of the zombie apocalypse.
Dude, swap volumes are just been absolutely insane the past like week or two. So I mean, we've pretty much for the last month been at 100 million daily for swap volume for the whole exchange, and just this last week, it's been like $300 million a day has been like the slow day. I think it's another 400 plus today. Like it's just like pretty insane. Like even just thinking about this happening like a couple months ago is like that would have been like the record day, and now it's here every single day, and we're not even in like the full bull market.
Yeah, these numbers are gonna go even further. Of course, like we do about half the volume of PancakeSwap. PancakeSwap's number 2 DEX. We're number 3 now, so we got to like double our numbers to kind of surpass or equate PancakeSwap. But here's the kicker that people don't really quite realize is that PancakeSwap and Uniswap, and like it's the same thing with Curve. Like Curve's got like 1.7 billion in TVL. Uniswap's got about 3.5. PancakeSwap's about 1.5. We're at about like 300 million in our TVL. So that's about like 1/5 or 1/6 of Curve or PancakeSwap, which means that when ETH's price change, right, by some amount, whatever the hell that amount is, it takes a lot more liquidity and a lot more trade volume for the ARBs to ARB the ETH trade, like because ETH went up 1% or down percent. Versus on THORChain, it takes a lot less because our pool is a lot less shallow by like 1/5 or so, right? So like we are at a strong disadvantage in terms of trade volume to those other guys because we have 1/5 the TVLs they do. So inherently, if we just like magically waved a magic wand and we had the same TVL as PancakeSwap, just like today magically, we would probably be having so much more than double the volume just from ARB alone, not even including organic trades and these kinds of things, right? And to think about that, even taking that like a step further, like the TVL of the network inherently increases with the Rune's price because Rune's was one of the assets in all of the pools, right? So when Rune's price pumps, our bot comes in and he puts in Bitcoin and he takes out Rune and he just kind of like pumping the pools up that way, just from the value increasing on one side. So it's just like it's a natural thing to occur, like without anything happening, without any more integrations, without any more like new chains added, without like nothing new can pop on our stuff, and we will surpass PancakeSwap like just through natural price appreciation of Rune. It's just gonna like to me, it's like an inevitability as long as nothing. No black swan events, something fucking crazy happens. But just like we are so poised to become the number 2 slot. And number 3, number 1, we are about 1/10 the volume of Uniswap. So we got a 10x from where we are now, which to be honest, like we should easily surpass that in my opinion, like next year. Like maybe not in 2023, but 2024 we should definitely be able to pass that and become the number 1 fucking DEX in crypto, which would be amazing.
Yeah, incredible. Do you guys remember like how down is Uniswap's volume from its peak? Like if THORChain is a 10x to Uniswap currently, like where was Uniswap in compared to previous Uniswap, if anyone
Yeah, well,
knows?
they do 1 billion daily now. Was it maybe 10 billion before? I'm actually not really sure where it was at. I'm sure there's a dashboard you can look at historical volumes.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be my guess. I don't remember.
Yeah, we should be able to do that as well. I think as a protocol, like another way to think about it is that like Uniswap just basically does Ethereum and shitcoins. That's what it trades more or less all day, right? And we have the most important trade pair in crypto, one that has the highest volume by far. That is both Bitcoin to stable and Bitcoin to ETH. Like those are the highest trade pairs by volume by like at least 5 or 10x anything else. So it's just like we are positioned to do things. We are the only pair that does that, right? We are
Yeah, that
very
was the
unique in
first
that sense.
thing. That was the first thing that ever hooked me on THORChain, and still to this day is the most compelling thing out of all the crazy things that have happened. It's like, you look at the top 10, you look at number 1 Bitcoin, number 2 ETH. It's like, okay, I like those, I want to trade them. I can go to Binance, or there's only one DEX that can actually handle that swap with the actual native asset. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's hard to imagine it not over time having more volume than like the not biggest assets, right? Like the biggest trading pairs are still BTC, USDT, BTC, USDC, ETH. So that's what THORChain is kind of all about, is like stringing together the quote unquote incompatible chains and allowing a DEX between them.
So we just hit the all-time high for Bitcoin custodied by the network just like, a couple days ago, maybe even yesterday. Someone noticed it. So it was last record was about 1,200 Bitcoin custodied, and that was last like March, April-ish, and now we're at like 1,350 total coins. So it's like I mean, it's pretty crazy when you think about like how much how much potential there is to still grow, especially like so what's happening right now with yields. I just kind of want to go into this for a second because I think this is pretty interesting. So as Rune goes up in price, that means the network becomes over bonded because there's less rune in the pools, there's more rune in the node. So the network's essentially over secured. So what it does is it shifts the rewards to the LPs and it gives them more rewards. And then as the synth utilization goes down because rune price is going up in relation to Bitcoin, that also puts more yield to savers too. So like savers, I mean, I don't know if you guys have checked the yields today or like anytime in the past couple of weeks. So not only is swap volume like at all-time highs, but more of the rewards are going to liquidity providers right now because Rune is up so much, and it's doing some crazy things to savers yields and LP yields. Obviously, you should take dual LP yields with a grain of salt, but savers yields, those are like that's the past 7 days of performance annualized to a year. So like obviously, that's with current conditions and everything like that, but like those numbers are insane. I think I saw 7% on Bitcoin today, and like to be clear, this is at like 2 or 3% before, which is still a great rate for obviously being able to get yield against your native Bitcoin. But with the volumes this past week and the pendulum giving extra yields to LPs rather than nodes, LP yield is just up across the board. Node yield is down because the Rune price is up. So that's kind of what's going on right now and why yields are just so crazy high.
That's
Yeah,
epic. Yeah, incredible.
it's pretty nuts. Like some of these figures are just like absurd, right? And it's like Bitcoin's at like 7%, ETH's at 16%. A lot of the stable coins are over 20%, which is like higher than even Anchor's like artificially inflated system. Litecoin's at 50%, BNB's at 12, Atom's at 26%. And it's so crazy to think that these are so effective. And part of the reason why they're generating so much income, the yield's so high, is partially because what I mentioned earlier, but our TVL being so small relative to everybody else. Like we have 1/5 or 1/6 the TVL of these similarly volumed exchanges like PancakeSwap and Curve, but yet we have a lot less mouths to feed in a matter of speaking. So like each mouth is actually getting a lot more food than you would with like a PancakeSwap or Curve, whatever, because there's just less mouths to feed with all this food coming in, metaphorically speaking. So it's just like it is actually real yield that is like extraordinarily high at this moment, and it's not going to stay that way. Don't get me wrong. Like maybe people will start LPing in and depositing large quantities of savers, and that will level things off to be more
Right.
reasonable. But for right now, it's
Yeah.
massively high, and it's probably gonna stay that way for I'm gonna guess at least a few months. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean that is the flywheel or the liquidity black hole we always talk about, right? And it's like if volumes keep up or if volumes continue trending up, then that means the yields are going to be super enticing, and then that's what pulls in more liquidity, and then that makes swap rates even better, faster, all of that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Even just the other week, that huge $6 million wrap Bitcoin to Bitcoin trade that we saw, like on our highest volume day ever, which was on uh, was that either Saturday or Sunday last week. So we saw this $6 million wrap Bitcoin trade. And you look at the wrap Bitcoin pool size; it's only 4 million. It's only 4 million deep. So someone put through like 150% of the pool's entire depth, and it turned over within the day for execution in 50 basis points plus DORSwap affiliate fee. That's one trade.
Yeah, that's absolutely nuts. Like that's completely unheard of in like AMM land. Like it's completely unreasonable. Like if you think that the capital efficiency of concentrated liquidity is really good, concentrated liquidity cannot even come close to touching what that Bitcoin WBTC swapper actually did. And it's actually one of the things I want to touch upon. I'm interviewing tomorrow with Bankless, which is going to be a really fun podcast with me and Eric Voorhees are doing it together. And that's one of the topics I want to touch upon to kind of like blow away the Ethereum community of like, what makes your AMM different? We'll be like, well, we just kicked ass with this $6 million trade for like 45 bips. That's how it's fucking different.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. And just LP, like LPs have been making a lot off of the Rune uptick also, partially because of synth leverage. So like that's something we talked about before, especially like when prices are down, that means that LPs give value to the savers, right? But when Rune price is up, then that value goes back into the LPs. So that's why LPs have just been performing like absolute crazy. So not only does the incentive pendulum shift more in their favor, but they get more of the yield. And yeah, they're with volumes up. They take in a majority of the liquidity fees for every single swap, and doing 400 million a day in swaps. I think the highest volume day, LPs took in almost 500,000 in fees. So and that's pretty much a lot of the reason why. Is just so effective, the slip based fees and actually offsetting impermanent loss too, which is something that we should probably go into too, about getting rid of impermanent loss protection for the future.
Yeah, that's another kind of a hot topic these days. One of the more controversial debates we've been having in our community for a while.
Yeah, let's get into it. So the nodes started to vote and to get rid of impermanent loss protection, and the reason for that is that there's no more impermanent loss. That there is no. I believe the entire exposure from the reserve is something like 70,000 rune or less. Almost all of it is in the Fox pool, which is a fairly illiquid pool that doesn't see a lot of trade volume. So every single productive pool on THORChain has zero impermanent loss since any liquidity provider that's still around today does not have any impermanent loss besides I think like one or two people in that Fox pool, which barely does any volume, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah,
the node started to vote. Yep.
One of the important things is like impermanent loss protection has already been turned off for everybody, and the network is grandfathered in anybody who was an LP before that moment. So it's been almost a year. I think we did that back in February, I want to say. So we're a few months short, but it's been relatively close to a year of grandfathered people to get continued impermanent loss protection during the bear market.
Yep, exactly. So it was already removed for new LPs. Now this will just extend it to everybody. So effectively, what this means is like if you're a dual LP and you want impermanent loss protection, then it's not something that'll be offered anymore if the vote passes, which it's very likely to. Basically, the vote was ongoing, and then since there was pushback in the community, and obviously there should be like a big notice period where people can make a decision to withdraw. But right now, no one has any ILP impermanent loss anyway, so that's why it's being removed like at this time. So if that's something that you don't, if that's like a deal breaker, then you should withdraw your LP and consider going to savers or just doing something else. I think those are pretty much the options of what to do if you're an LP. And yeah, things have changed a lot for LPs since the network started, especially with synths and savers. And LPs gain more yield because of synths, but they also take on the price risk of synths and savers. So because so many things have changed with just new dynamics coming onto the network with LPs, it definitely makes more sense to tone down risk because ILP is a potentially unbounded risk for the future, and also just is more egalitarian for all LPs, essentially making it so before, if you added liquidity to your ILP position, then you'd get it removed. And one more point that I kind of wanted to make about this is that it only really this only really affects anybody in my mind, at least, if your plan is to take ILP. If you're a long-term LP, which is already proven to be a very profitable product because of all the volumes that are going through THORChain, it's just important to remember that if you want to withdraw and realize ILP, which is kind of why the coin ILP was termed, because you can just wait it out and then hopefully gain enough fees. Terribly named term. But the point is that when you withdraw, if you're realizing losses, those losses shouldn't be socialized upon every other LP and stakeholder in the network. Instead, if you want to withdraw and realize losses rather than just wait out the bad times, then they're your losses to realize. So I think that's kind of my takeaway from ILP is just, we're kind of past that phase of the network where we really need to protect it. In the future, if LPs, want to stay, obviously it's at their own risk, and they have to, if they choose to withdraw during a time when they have a permanent loss, then that's their own risk. And if you don't want that risk, then you should go to Savers, which is the has I wouldn't say principal protection, but you're not experiencing impermanent loss in that way because you're not dual LPing.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, this is not a big deal personally. Just the way I personally view it is it's that we set up ILP initially to kind of reduce the friction for people to become LPs in the network and try to get the liquidity up and the trade volume up and all that kind of stuff to help kind of bootstrap the network in some sense. And since we launched our Savers product, where you can get yield without being exposed to IL, the need for ILP has kind of basically gone away, or for the most part. And unlike other protocols like Bancor, for example, who really rugged this feature and just ripped it out from underneath everybody, all of a sudden, just instantaneous without anybody being aware of it. This protocol has stood by the LPs through the toughest time, through the bear market, and didn't rug it then, right? It didn't pull out that feature then. It waited until everybody was on the level. Everybody, he has no IL or very close to no IL, and so it kind of waited for the opportune time to do it. So to me, this is kind of a non-issue.
Yeah, totally agree. Just because if you're a long-term LP, the only people so this is the way I'm thinking about it. The only people that benefit from impermanent loss protection are those that choose to withdraw and realize a loss. And in that case, the loss is socialized upon every single other liquidity provider, which, to me, it's a different risk profile than any other thing. Obviously, it's great for that LP, but it actually incentivizes you to withdraw during the worst possible time when there's impermanent loss, rather than just keeping you around and you can realize a profit rather than a loss, as long as the fees offset the impermanent loss that you're experiencing. So it's really just about removing risk, and then if an LP wants to realize their own loss, they realize their own loss, and not everybody else covers that LP's loss. So yeah, people want to. I brought up RSGB. I know Kenton requested if he wants to come up here, or anybody else that wants to say a piece on this. Just be aware, and it's just a notification letting people know that ILP is going away if you're grandfathered in. If you're not, it's no big deal. If you're never planning on withdrawing your THORChain LP, or are not going to do it until whatever time or price, then it's not something that you need to worry about, really. So RSGB, you have anything? Also, crypto Ficre.
Yes, thank you so much for allowing me to come up here. I had a question. I'm pretty new to this whole entire space. But if my understanding is correct, the THORChain is built on the Cosmos SDK. So does that mean that if you guys were to launch some sort of, if you were to partake in the IBC, then we would be able to have some connection with the Cosmos ecosystem? Do I have that right?
Well, THORChain actually does. We have an Atom pool on THORChain. So Atom's one of the chains that are connected to THORChain's AMM. So you can use THORChain to trade Bitcoin to Atom to Rune, or any other chain that THORChain's connected to. So THORChain's built using Cosmos SDK, one of the oldest Cosmos SDK chains. And yeah, we don't use IBC, and I don't think it's like something that we're really looking at doing, but we're already definitely connected to Cosmos through Cosmos Hub.
Okay, and then my other question was if you can just shed some light on what the team is doing to bring Sol into THORChain.
There's no current work going on with adding Sol. Sol is a very complicated one to add, just because one, it would be our first EDDSA chain, which is a specific kind of like, for lack of a better term, encryption algo, you can call it that, than every other chain we've ever used. Most chains are like Bitcoin or EDSA. So it would require a bunch of work for social signatures to support this new type of cryptography. That's the first thing. Second thing is that like Solana is like running a full node of Solana is extremely expensive. Like I think it's like 256 gigabytes of RAM is required just on one of these nodes. Like these things are massive beasts, and because of that, it would cause a lot of operational costs to our validators for everyone to run their own copy of a full node of Solana. So there's a lot of cost to it, right? Not just to us as developers to kind of build that out, but also a lot of cost to the validators to support it and to run it. And then the question becomes like, well, are we going to get, enough TVL, enough trade volumes, enough activity with the Solana team in general to warrant all that cost, warrant all that investment? And that becomes the debate, right? I think I was actually talking to Anatoly today on the Twitterverse. And I mentioned, getting them at Solana Labs on board and such. And I explained to him what we're looking for in order to add a new chain, at least what I'm looking for to add a new chain more specifically. And that's just to make sure that the other team, in Solana in this case, is, they're down to connect, right? That they're willing to invest, capital from their treasury to the pools to kind of create that initial liquidity, that they're willing to do some kind of cross-pollination marketing with Twitter and other places as well, that they're willing to integrate their wallets and their DEXs into THORChain so that, we can maximize the effectiveness of, adding that kind of chain. If another chain like Solana doesn't want to do all that, and is not interested in actually really working with us and and getting on the same page, then to me, it's just like, it'd be a huge waste of time and money to integrate them. It just wouldn't yield any kind of trade value.
Yeah, another angle to that is interfaces might be able to string this together through aggregation. So, for example, THORSwap was looking at adding Stargate and getting all the EVMs, and I believe that there might be a way to do that with Solana over time. Like I know there's, I think, Neon, that's like an EVM on Solana, and there might be solutions there that obviously that's not the same as it being on THORChain itself. Like you wouldn't have savers, you wouldn't have liquidity pooling. It'd probably be using bridges on the back end, but you might be able to create the same user experience for swapping, which would, like, I think for most of us, that's kind of the key. So yeah, I'm also rooting for that. I'm always getting stranded trying to go back and forth from THORChain supported chains and Solana. It's like the biggest headache ever. So hope we see something there.
I agree with you. I'll step down and listen. I just wanted to ask one other thing. Again, back to this bringing Solana to THORChain. You had mentioned that the node would be very expensive or whatever. It's my understanding that when they launch FireDancer, it's going to be much more affordable. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that's one thing that Pluto pointed out before. Tiny Dancer and Fire Dancer. I wonder what you think about those, Chad. I don't know. I don't know too much about Fire Dancer. I know that Tiny Dancer is supposed to be kind of like a light client for Solana, so I don't know whether in your mind that fits the security requirements of what we would need for any chain integration, or whether I don't even know exactly what Fire Dancer is. Whether it's just a slightly less resource intensive daemon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about it. I think the big selling point around Fire Dancer is that they say that you can do 600 to 1 million transactions per second on a Fire Dancer, blockchain, which is a lot. Like I think even Twitter is probably like 300,000 or something like this. So it's a very large throughput, and I think maybe that community is excited about that because it opens up opportunities for new applications to exist on Fire Dancer that can't exist on AVAX or something that is like less than that. I don't know if that's actually true or not. It's kind of, to me, that just feels like hopium. Like I always have a pet peeve around like there's too much energy being focused on building open platforms people can deploy smart contract or something similar to it, and just thinking that deploying the platform will be valuable, but platforms with jack shit unless somebody else builds a smart contract that other people are willing to use or get value out of. So I don't know. I'm not really bullish on the idea of any of these chains that are like, yeah, we're super fast. We have this vanity metric of X TPS. It doesn't impress me at all. But my personal feelings aside, I think Fire Dancer. I don't know the metrics of like what the recommended computational like power you need to run something like that. But if it's less than the Solana is now, it's obviously a win for not just us, but for them as a project. And we can kind of look at that. But again, I don't care how inexpensive a light client is or a full node is for any chain. If they're not willing to work with us and kind of operate with us hand in hand and kind of like get their community engaged and on board with integrating THORChain, then it's just to me it just seems like a big waste of time.
Sweet. Zook, what's up?
Hey guys, long time no see. I'm considering being a liquidity provider on THORChain, a dual-sided LP. But I've heard on other podcasts that apparently on most dexes it's not profitable to LP because of MEV and arbitrage trade. So I'd like to know if on THORChain LP profits are reduced because of MEV or arbitrage trades. Thank you.
Yeah, so the reason why being an LP on most AMMs isn't all that profitable, and there's generally three reasons why this is the case. One is MEV, because MEV extracts value from the trader. So what you would normally get as yield, MEV sandwich attacks that particular trade and like kind of rugs the yield from that swap from going to the LPs, and it goes to the MEV attack bot, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is concentrated liquidity. While it makes the trades more better price execution, it kind of centralizes the yield to a handful of people in a sense. Those who are mathematicians who can run art infrastructure and this kind of stuff that end up just most of the yield is concentrated to them. It's not just concentrated liquidity; it's also concentrated yield. And so for most people, they because they're not running infrastructure and servers, they don't know how to write code in Python or whatever it is. They just can't have the resources to do it properly, and they just do it passively, and then they just basically they get almost no yield, and they're just exposed to IL all the time, and then just mostly the time at a loss. That's kind of the other component to it. And then the last reason why is because a lot of AMMs highly fractalize. What's the right word there? Fractures the liquidity of these assets because they have 30 different pools with ETH in them, right? And the pool that gets all the trades it changes, and it depends upon a lot of different things, and so like ends up kind of like which pool you enter, you may not get much trading at all because it's all the ETH trades are going on in a different pool, right? And with Uniswap v4 and their hooks concept, they may even go even more extreme And doing that in the sense of like now you have pools that have the same assets, but they have different hooks that do different things. And so now you even more you're fractionalizing liquidity across more pools, which is even going to make it, potentially, even less of an income. So what makes THORChain different in those senses that we don't do that. We only have one pool per asset, so everything's going through one single pool, and you don't need to kind of pick a horse to win the race in a sense. That's one thing. Two is we do not have any of that kind of net. Like you cannot sandwich attack on THORChain, for example, to take yield from others. And three, I personally just really dislike concentrated liquidity, so we never did it. I'd rather just have people be able to LP passively and be able to kind of like get that passive income by being an LP that way, and not worry about, I got to run infrastructure, blah blah blah, and have all the additional overhead and complexity. That's just not a good way for LPs to like operate in general. I'd say for specific people who are very bright and very capable, then maybe it's great for them, but that's not what most people are really able to do. So I think THORChain is quite different, and not to mention the yield right now is off the hook crazy right now, so it's quite profitable.
Great, thanks for your response.
You're welcome.
Hey, Kenton, what's up?
Finally got it to work. All right, thanks, guys. You obviously know how I feel about things. But I'm curious, why such if canceling ILP is such a great idea, why the extreme lack of communication? Well, like why not talk about it? Why not, this is why this is good and blah blah blah. But any dissent, anybody who disagrees is met with bullying and dismissiveness. And it's like there's no communication on Twitter. It's a very hush thing. Like don't talk about it. We're just doing this and sneaking it by.
Ken, we're talking about it, my friend. That's why you're up here. Because we're talking about it.
Only talking about it because there's been pushback. Like the nodes have been happy to just push this through and be done. It just reeks. Like what the crazy part is like, what is there to hide? There's nothing to hide. Like I actually kind of don't disagree with you guys. It's not a bad idea. But if it's explained and discussed and openly that, yeah, this is okay, or we're going to do this. But the fact it's just being like done in like secret, it seems like it just raises all kinds of questions.
Kenan, it's not possible to do anything in secrecy on this project. It's literally impossible to do anything in secrecy. Everything has to be out public. We made the biggest announcement we can possibly make, which is that mainnet, announcement channel, which is like the most important announcement channel that we have as a project. And we talk about this community. We created an ADR about it. We had a conversation, blah 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 blah. Like, and nodes want to vote. Nodes can vote, right? And personally, I don't like that we push nodes to like not vote for 30 days. It's like it's a node's prerogative to vote how and when they want to, and it's not really my place or anybody else's place to tell a node don't vote for something. Like wait 2 weeks or a week. That's just not
sure. But
to me, that's not appropriate. But like nodes, in the end, nodes can just do things without even saying anything, theoretically, right?
Of course.
But like nothing can be done in secret.
The nodes are managing a business, all right, a brand, a community, right? So they can just go do whatever they want, sure, but they could wreck their business by just doing, some rash actions that really upsets the community.
And I think that's why that they took the time to not just push it through and actually like listen to what people were saying, because like Pluto's requesting to come up too, but yeah, I mean nodes signaled one thing, and then obviously there's pushback, and then they're like, all right, well we need to chill off a little bit and make sure that there's some adequate notice.
Well, so like usually when you guys talk about so I'm an outsider, right? I'm not part of the boys club. I'm not in the inner circle. What attracted me to THORChain was how open the communication was. Like the disclosure, the explanations, like the deprecating rune, like I'm like, man, these guys are like, the hacks explaining everything. And I'm like, well, this is really good. I cannot know anybody, and I can read all this stuff and I can learn and get up to your speed. I thought this is fantastic. This is great. This is a great brand. They're being consistent. I follow all of the channels. I follow you guys on Twitter. I'm up to speed on Discord, all that kind of stuff. And I've not seen any chatter about canceling ILP, just like came out of the blue. And then within 8 hours, 55 nodes are for it. And the impression I get is there's a select few people talking behind the scenes who have predetermined this vote, and they influence the majority of nodes. Which, okay, fine, you're doing that. I can't stop that, but it really tarnishes the brand. It's really off-putting, and so I feel like something's trying to be snuck by, and we're being bullied into this vote. It really, sets me back. What's going on here? What are they? And the screwed up thing about this all is it's like a millionaire trying to steal a chocolate bar. Like, is ILP really going to be an issue going forward? Like, I think reality is not. So like, and then that gets me wondering, what's the big risk? Like, why do we have to just push this through and be done with it without talking about it? And that's what makes me get paranoid. Well, what am I missing? Why? What is going on here? So that's where I'm coming from. Maybe you can help.
Kenton, I think the point is that you're literally not missing anything. It's all out there in the open. It's in the Discord channels. You've been an active member of those discussions, and they've been going. I mean, there's literally hundreds of messages in the thread. So to say that anyone's trying to sneak anything by in the back room, like, if that were the case, we wouldn't have asked anything. We wouldn't hear anything. The vote would have just passed. That's not what's happening. We heard the feedback from the community. I personally asked nodes, like, and again, I agree with Chad here. I don't feel good about asking nodes, hey, wait 30 days to vote. Like, instead of voting how you feel right now, do it in 30 days so that we can give the community a chance to react and give a community a chance to disseminate the information. So like, even though I don't feel like that's my place or anyone's place on the protocol to act as a mouthpiece for the protocol or the nodes, I still feel like, okay, that's fair. People want the ability, products downstream, integrators want the ability to message to their customers that ILP is ending. But I don't understand why you're getting so worked up about this when we haven't heard any of that feedback from actual product teams. THORswap hasn't pushed back on this. None of the people who actually LP'd through interfaces are pushing back on it through the feedback that's going out from integrators. So it's like you're sitting here saying, oh, there's backroom things happening when that's not happening. We don't even actually discuss these things. This is something I push for more. I wish there was more coordination. But literally anybody in the network can suggest anything and announce anything that they want. I mean, there's nobody here that has any kind of permissioned ability above anyone else's. Everyone's voices are equal in Discord. So if one member of the core protocol wants to call for a vote and a bunch of nodes vote for that, like, that's just their prerogative. That's their prerogative as stakeholders of the network, as THORChain node operators. And so, like, yeah, I can hear you, and I want the best for what the community, and I want the communication to be done properly, but that's extremely difficult in decentralized governance. Like, if we were actually doing things in the back room, you would have well thought out plans of things. But sometimes people just shoot from the hip and they're like, hey, I think it's time to end ILP. And some people say, great, you know what? I think you're right. I think it's also time to end ILP. And that's kind of what we see here. So I do hear you, like, needing to not rush this through, but that's literally like exactly what we've done. I asked nodes, stop voting for 30 days to give people a chance to disseminate this information. And I have not seen any new information that would suggest that the reasoning for why we wanted to do this behind in the first place, I haven't seen any pushback from that. So we're going to continue with the vote after 30 days. All the product teams should have communicated to their users what the impact of this change will be, and we're going to move on. And if you think that things are happening in the background, that, like, you're just being paranoid. I'm sorry to say it, but
that's fine. I'm being paranoid. Fair. That's okay.
I think
but my thing is, like, why not, like, trust me, guys, I've delivered so much bad news in my life. Like, I was joking with Cal about it. Like, I'm an expert in it. I know how to do it. When it's always best when it comes from you first, right? If somebody has to find out bad news on their own first, it makes it 10 times worse. And so if an LP wakes up one day and realizes they don't have the protection, and there's been, like, really zero effort to let them know about it, like, they're gonna be so mad. And
that's why there's a notice period that's going on right now. Like, I totally get what you're saying. And that's
come on, guys, it's one tweet. I've not seen anybody, Bull, who's the most for this, I've not seen him tweet anything about it.
So you're mad that independent community people aren't tweeting enough?
Well, so what I'm mad about is everyone's,
because who is THORChain Bull?
well,
He's an investor in the
Pluto.
protocol.
What I'm mad about is everyone is caving to this excuse of decentralization. We have a brand, and there is, the nodes wouldn't exist without the mouthpieces, and the mouthpieces wouldn't exist without the nodes. And it's kind of up to us to all kind of work together to make this succeed.
I agree.
And,
I agree with you. I really do think that, like, I understand the reason for having a brand. And if you kind of think about it like car dealerships or equipment dealerships, like, you have a relationship with your local dealer that I think is first and foremost above even the brand of the product that you're buying. You don't have a relationship with Honda corporate or John Deere corporate. Your relationship is with your local dealer that supplies you with your service and your parts, right? And so that's the relationship that matters here. And so in this supply chain, THORChain as a protocol, as an entity, should not have spokespeople. It should not have even really a support team. Those functions should be on the actual distributor of the product, which in this case is the DEXs. So if THORSwap is the one handling the relationship with the user or the end LP, that's who they have a relationship to. And THORSwap should try to use their voice to influence the protocol. The protocol should not just say anything, because you have to realize that it's impossible for any one of us to act as a spokesman for a decentralized protocol. That's the difficulty here. You're asking us to do something that is not physically possible due to the topology of decentralized networks.
well, but everybody seems, everybody can act together to promote features. Like,
okay.
Why can't everyone act together to promote removing one? And
that's a good question. That's a good question for like a psychologist. People are going to write books in the future about how governance and branding of decentralized protocol like plays out. That's an area that I think is fascinating. That's why we're having this debate in an open forum right now.
And again, from the node's point of view, they're managing a business here. I, as a node operator, I would want to take time on this, to have a message crafted, to get it out there, because when we keep making changes, like we're reneging on a deal, that lowers credibility, and people are going to see that, like, well, we can't trust any of these features because they're just going to change it a year from now, and we lose all credibility. So why come up with all these new features and promote them when they're just going to change in a year? There's.
I 100% agree with that. I would love to see us not change anything on THORChain ever again. That's been.
I'm not trying to say things shouldn't change.
No, I'm being 100% serious.
Yeah, Pluto said this many
going
times.
to McDonald's
wants
and then
ossification,
It's like going to McDonald's and then, oh, you don't have hamburgers? They have goat's heads now. Oh yeah, goat heads are great. They're a new thing. Like, that's not why people go to McDonald's. It's so out of left field. Yeah. So there is, how do I say this? A reason for nodes to kind of ossify things, to not change things all the time. So we get that mass adoption, so we can, really move forward.
I think we are getting a mass adoption because we change things all the time. To be fair, we are where we are because of the innovations and changes we've made, especially over the last 6 months or so. So saying we shouldn't change anything is a little bit, to me, it's premature. Even Bitcoin's been around for 14 years, and it's still making large changes like Taproot, for example, and Schnorr signatures and things of that nature. I think we're a bit premature to be talking about shutting it all down and not making any changes whatsoever. It's a little bit premature. But each individual validator can make their own choice of if they want to do what you're saying you would do if you were a validator and craft a message and do all these things, they're welcome to do it. If they don't want, they think it's a non thing, they can not do so, right? Like me as an individual, we talk about ADRs, from time to time. Sometimes I talk about them publicly, and sometimes I don't. Just to me, it depends on whether I think my voice is helpful in the context of this particular conversation. Some of these ADRs I don't really care much about, and whatever is going to happen is probably fine, and it doesn't really require a big conversation. And some of them are highly controversial and requires explanation and these things, and I get more engaged and involved in those conversations. So I don't always talk about ADRs publicly, and sometimes I do it. And it's my right to choose how I want to communicate about ADRs on a personal level. And it's the same thing for THORChain Bull. It's the same thing for Pluto. It's the same thing for Cow or anybody else for that matter.
Yeah, let me just say one thing and let Pluto talk a little bit about the ossification point that he likes to make. Um, yeah. So, like, I mean, for me, like, I woke up, I saw that the news that there was like vote for this to change, and like, yeah, I talked like with all the Nine Realms guys. Like, I had the same reaction as you. It's like it's just getting the word out there for a decentralized protocol. That means there's so many individual actors. Obviously, people can act completely independently, and if there was some kind of coordinated thing, that's exactly the kind of thing that would require coordination between parties. So it's like the thing happened, and then there was obviously like, hey, we should wait for more of a notice period on this, make sure that there's news to spread on this, right? And then that's exactly what's happening right now. Is just like making sure that people are aware, and if they disagree with their change, then to make their voice heard or to vote with your wallet. So that's really kind of my thoughts on it. It's just individual people that have to coordinate, and in a public setting, it's pretty messy because any one person's voice, it might seem like it's representative of the protocol or anything. Even this account's voice. There's many different contributors who act behind the scenes, and there's all these individuals. That's why this community is so decentralized, because there's so many people that need to be out there to spread the word. There's no official account. This is just an account that's used by the THORChain contributors to spread the word. It's our biggest mouthpiece, but it's in no means representative of the protocol. And it's just individuals that act by themselves, really. So I don't want to like dwell on this whole thing too much. Like, we got a lot of people here too, so like if there's other people that want to come up too and talk about things, so not trying to like brush past this or anything like that, but I don't want to dwell on it either. So
I'm done. I said my piece. I can get off.
Or you can stay up and talk about another topic. That's fine too.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I do agree with you, Ken. I think that more cooperation and just like trying to streamline communications is definitely a good thing. Like, but I again, I like woke up to this vote already underway. It's like a contributor, a node operator, and established member of the core team basically said, like, let's do this thing, and at that point it's like, okay, well, the vote's already started, like, the race has started. So like, if I could have it my way, I would prefer that someone just say like, hey, we want to do this thing, like, but again, it's like, how can you even determine whether it's proper to communicate that something is ended, unless like, does there have to be some kind of signaling period or whatever? I don't know. It's tough. Decentralized governance is really tough, but I agree with you, and we can and will do better next time. And I already did send that person a note, and I said, hey, look, next time we would appreciate some heads up so that we can get our ducks in a row with the community before we even start the vote, because the vote might trigger like some type of I don't know.
So that's
We're
why I
trying
think
our
there's
best.
collusion going on, because
Yeah.
like you said, Pluto, you woke up to it. Oh, you have to digest it and think about it. So you have 55 nodes, 55 nodes in 8 hours really thought this through that quickly. I call bullshit. They've been thinking about it for weeks. It took me, I've been thinking about this for a whole week now and going through these iterations and everything, and then never coming on that lending realization. I really tried to think this through, the different scenarios, and I'm like, I couldn't understand why they're doing this. Do they think the room price is going to crash? Is it going to moon? Like, what's the reasoning here? And there's no way people thought that through within 8 hours. If they didn't have prior knowledge.
Probably a lot of people had known that, like, impermanent loss exposure from ILP, from impermanent loss protection, was something that is a liability to the protocol. And when the actual exposure trends to zero, like that's a good time to get rid of it. So maybe there was a cabal of node operators that were just waiting for the rune exposure to drop before proposing this. I'm not in the heads of all the node operators.
Pluto,
It seems
come
likely.
on, man. Do not say there's some cabal of anything when you definitively know that's not the fucking case.
I know it's not the case.
Okay, then why are you saying that there might have been a cabal? You know that's not fucking true. Don't be throwing shit out there. Come on, man. You can't.
Did I say that there was? I said I just don't. I'm just saying that you don't know who wanted something at what time. People have independent preferences for doing things, and the fact that
Right, but
it's
don't
been
say the word cabal, because that insinuates that like there's some
there definitely is not.
secretive group of people who are communicating in the background and blah 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 blah. That's definitely not the fucking case at all.
No
It's
one's
just that
saying
like what that you suggest that there might be a quote cabal. So I just want to make sure we don't misconstrue things and to people.
Okay. Anyway, moving on.
What you got, Chad THOReau? You want to talk about something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the outbound queue. So obviously volumes are like 10x what they were 2 months ago. One of the downsides of that is that some of the security features to keep funds, safe and keep X amount flowing out per hour or whatever are basically being like maxed out at the current volumes, leading to even, I'm seeing $500, $2,000 swaps taking an hour or two. So I know that has to do with the confirmation counting that can be adjusted, as well as just tuning down the outbound delay and stuff like that. But yeah, kind of just curious, Chad, Pluto, everyone's thoughts on like what is the potential game plan to fix that and just kind of improve the UX if this is going to be the new standard for volume and hopefully further, like, what's the solution there to get swap times back down?
Yeah, so what's in the works right now, and it'll be in probably 125, our next release, which is about a week from today. We're introduced this thing called Swap Cloud, or Swapper Cloud rather, that basically reduces the wait time basically for people that are like have a heavy history of trading on the protocol. And so this is primarily our bots and this kind of thing, and so that will. We did some analysis on like how much of a reduction in time this would be, and it ranges, but for the most part, we're seeing like 80, 90, pretty much between like 80 and 90% reduction most of the time when you have a large queue. So I think once that comes out in version 125, we'll see how that kind of like pans out, but it should have a significant decrease in the delayed outbound for transactions that are waiting to be signed.
So any adjustments just to like the basic, like, I don't know how to phrase it, like the just like the mechanisms that have already been in place, like just how the whole like X funds per hour, however it's set, or is Swapper Cloud just going to be like the main solution there, or is that going to be sufficient?
I think what we should do is we should go with Swapper Cloud because it's just a much more kind of like a smarter way to apply the delayed outbound. And then once we've deployed that and we see how effective it is, if we feel like it's it works well enough on its own, we don't have to do anything more, then we can just leave it at that. If we find that there's still like significant delays or problems or whatever it is, then we can have another conversation about like tweaking the delayed outbound mathematics to increase the amount that it allows out in a sense, which by the way would also be an ADR, which would also be a vote that people would do and know the operators would do, and they'll execute that vote whenever they feel like they are ready to vote.
Yeah, I think kind of like safe listing ARBs like that makes a lot of sense. I guess the concern would just be
no safe list.
Well, not like, maybe that's the wrong term. I don't know. I don't know if that's an official term. That's not. I don't know. Yeah. I just made that up. But what I was going to say is just like, the shrimp, like the new person, like THORChain's getting a lot of attention. I've got friends asking how to use THORSwap and stuff, and then they're like, oh shit, it's been 2 hours, what's going on? And that's just not a great like first time or newbie experience. So like I would hope that there's kind of something to alleviate like that as well, and not just like the whale, like 1,000 swap ARBs.
Yeah, so Swapper Cloud. Yeah, so Chad, like what you were gonna say, Swapper Cloud will decrease the count of people who have a lot of trade volume in the network. So they've spent a ton of fees in the network, aka the biggest ARBs. Their times won't be counted against the outbound queue to get out. and they'll get out really quick. So in turn, that actually reduces it for everybody because their volume isn't counted
Yeah.
at all towards the whole thing. So in that case, it should drastically lower it. And
Right.
if it
That makes
doesn't,
okay.
then
That's
it could
cool.
be
Yeah.
adjusted. But the other thing that you could do, which is definitely a good idea, is just raising the bug bounty. Because the reason why the uh, the outbound queue is set at 300k rune or whatever. Basically, if there's 300k runes scheduled to go out at any time, you wait an hour, no matter what, no matter if you're trading $1 or $10 million. So what you could do is simply just raise the bug bounty. And by raising the bug bounty, it means you can just increase that threshold, say put it up to 500k rune, then if there's 500k rune in the outbound queue. So if you still don't get to the equilibrium just through swapper clout, what you can do is just raise the bug bounty, and therefore the incentive that someone can't just get in and out. If they had some kind of 0 day for THORChain, they can't just steal from the pools. What they'd have to do is do the responsible disclosure and claim that bounty instead. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't get those funds out because it would be delayed up to an hour.
Can I just jump in here and zoom out for everyone here is joining? We also have to recognize that THORChain as a project is absolutely ripping, and more than half the people here probably have no idea what we're talking about with swapper clout, outbound queue, confirmation counting. So let's just zoom out, 1,000,000% real quick and just give people the context about why this is being so hotly discussed and why we're developing, new features to try to alleviate these things. So everyone knows THORChain suffered some hacks back in 2021, and after that, we basically put this outbound queue in place, and that's a buffer so that whenever there's a certain amount of rune worth of swaps basically flying through the network, you're going to delay. You're basically going to schedule the outbound instead of sending it out immediately. You send it out into the future, and that's essentially that penalizes sort of everyone equally, regardless of how much they personally are swapping, because in the event that someone was attacking the network, they could probably split it between a bunch of addresses and split it into a bunch of little transactions. So in order for the network to be maximally defensive, it has to assume that pretty much all traffic or all volume going through it is potentially adversarial in nature. And so what happens in practice is, back in a year ago, we weren't seeing much more than 300,000 rune worth of volume being transacted at any given time. So those scheduled outbounds were taking anywhere from 0 minutes to 1 hour, which is the max. Right now, we're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of volume going through THORChain every day. So more or less every single transaction is taking that maximum duration of 1 hour, which leads to a bad user experience for people. All these new people coming on, making swaps on Trust Wallet, for example, for the first time ever, they're getting hit with a 1 hour outbound delay in addition to their confirmation counting and however much the outbound takes to get sent, which on Bitcoin can be anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. So imagine you're showing up to swap ETH to BTC for the first time, and it takes 2 hours to receive your BTC. That's not a great that's not a great user experience. But on the other hand, for us to have a strong defensive posture, we want to give node operators and the security teams up to 1 hour to respond to anything that looks fishy. So right now, what you're hearing about is a number of measures being taken across the board in order to kind of fix that or alleviate that from both dimensions. And so I think the one dimension is basically increasing the amount at which that threshold kicks in. And that's what something like Swapper Cloud does, because it decreases the amount that's essentially accrued to that minimum, depending on how many historical fees that they've paid. So basically, we're saying that all our bots, that are accountable for about half of the volume on THORChain, they're not going to penalize the regular swappers. So that's one way to attack the problem. The other way to attack the problem would be to shorten the maximum. So to give, if we thought our response time was better than 1 hour, for intercepting some kind of attack, then we could reduce that maximum amount of time. Which, I mean, we can go into what it would take to reduce that amount of time, and I think that like the Node Mimir v2 will really help us achieve that goal. But I mean, we can talk about it from multiple directions. You know, you can increase bug bounties, and then that increases the the minimum outbound threshold, because again, that's where the game theory comes in of like, okay, then if the maximum that I could steal is less than the threshold, I might as well just become a white hat. So there's a ton of like things that come into play when just determining what the throttles on the network are, but we're just starting to work on development of trying to find ways to like narrow those a little bit, if that makes sense.
Right. We want to narrow it, but we don't want to necessarily remove it. So we could remove it. Like validators could vote right now and turn this whole thing off and have instantaneous outbounds, and UX would be a lot better, a lot faster, right? That's something that you could literally vote and do right now, and it would be just golden and ready to go. We don't even need to make a code change. It's ready to go. But I think we implemented it just because we want to make sure we have protections in the network to ensure that funds are safe and not just like $100 million going out the door in a split second, So so I think we should just like let Swapper Cloud get out there. Let's just see how effective it is at reducing the swap times. And if we're unhappy with the result, we can go ahead back to the table and have a conversation about increasing the bug bounty or decreasing the total limit from an hour to a half hour, like Pluto was just talking about. We can have all that conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like this is the kind of thing where we have to take a multi-pronged approach and do as many things as we possibly can, because as we've been talking about now, for some time in the community, in the dev community, it's like we're about to experience hyper growth right now as a protocol. We're just seeing it, and we haven't even landed what I think are some of our biggest integrations yet in the pipeline. And so, things are about to get real nutty if volumes keep trending in the directions they have been, and if the integrations keep up, and if THORChain keeps hitting those all-time highs in swapper count, unique swapper count, volume. Like we're just starting to see the edges of the scalability of the system. So we're basically have all hands on deck right now to try to figure out solutions to alleviate those scaling concerns before that hyper growth really starts.
Sweet. Thanks for zooming out, Pluto. Yeah, that was good.
We could talk about the Node Mimir stuff too, which I'm personally really excited about that. Like I think I see that as kind of like the final rung for like total planned obsolescence. Basically, like there's an admin Mimir key that's existed from the very beginning of the network, because I mean it's basically gotten to a point now where it's only used for operational and security purposes. So like nodes have to do a 2/3 vote to enact any economic changes to the network, and that's more or less been enshrined as just sort of like a basically just like that's the promise that the security teams make to the network. Well, now we've finally enshrouded that in code, and so now there's two types of constants in the network. As of this most recent release, there's economic constants and there's operational constants, and basically that paves the way to completely burn those Mimir keys, so that there isn't really any permissioned manager of the network. Anybody who's really a node operator can act as a security team in their own right now. And so basically what that does is it creates basically a condition where if 3 nodes are to vote on any operational constant, that will take effect immediately, and then it will be a simple majority after that. And so basically what that allows is like, no matter what happens, like whether you're a centralized exchange or a decentralized exchange, like sometimes you just have to halt trading or halt outbounds on a network just because there's like downstream problems with those blockchains. Like, maybe Solana crashed, or, there's, Atom did a hard fork or whatever, and like the chain is literally not producing new blocks. Like there's reasons operationally you just have to halt certain chains. And so, that presents like a point of centralization, is like, well, who gets to decide who halts a chain and when we halt a chain. So up until this point, that's been handled, by the core team and by THORsec and by 9 Realms. But now finally, we're basically taking the steps to fully burn that key and put that responsibility directly onto node operators. And so what I think that's going to do is that's going to, yeah, we just had a new speaker come up. Can you mute? Can you mute, please?
I think the host can
He's
mute
done.
as well.
Yeah, I
I
got
muted
him.
him.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, basically just was saying that like the Node Mimir 2 stuff is in my sense like one of the best kind of enhancements to the protocol, because it's going to allow teams of node operators to build new stacks of like security and monitoring. So like people can put automated operational halting onto their node, and so like a node can automatically make a recommendation to halt the network if it sees anything suspicious. So we can do all kinds of like on and off chain solvency checking on like, and so what I think is that like the security capabilities just of the network and of the network operators as a whole is about to really level up. And when that happens, I can see us starting to scale back some of those security measures. So like being able to reduce the outbound delays a lot more. Really just anything that allows us to like process more throughput faster, and and for the end user, like that's really what we want to optimize for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Mimir V2 is one of the biggest things that's coming out anytime soon, and it's already I believe it's live in the code, but not fully flagged on in most instances. So maybe we should also just back up and just say like a little bit more about Node Mimir, and so basically Mimir V2, which is coming out, and the difference between like operational Mimirs and economic Mimirs. Like I think it's a kind of a big thing, and it just makes it a lot very democratic. In not that it wasn't at all before, but it makes it just completely permissionless for any node to act in the best interest of the network when it needs to, which obviously like it needs to from time to time. And there will be changes that need to be made that are that will require more than just 3 nodes to go in one direction, like for pausing trading or something like that, in case that's necessary.
Yeah, to give some context, some more like historical context, like Mimir was first created primarily for ChaosNet, which we call like our kind of our public beta, and it was created because we wanted a methodology to react quickly in the event that something terrible is happening. That was the real context of it. So we knew we were launching this new software. It was a very complex piece of code. A lot of things could go wrong. We want to make sure that we could react quickly to stop something from happening if it does. And so we called it Mimir because the name Mimir as a character in Norse mythology, who at the end of his kind of story gets his head cut off. And so Mimir was always designed to be like a temporary thing that we would, one day once we feel the network is mature enough and this kind of thing, that we would just kind of like cut Mimir's head off and kind of carry on. But while it's kind of getting its footing and has its training wheels on, let's keep Mimir around for emergency purposes primarily. And I think through the experience of just like running the network as a community for over the last few years, we kind of learned how useful Mirror was and how helpful it was and how it saved our butts more than a few times in some pretty dire situations. And so it was extremely helpful to help to control the risk of the protocol in a sense. And I think Mimir V2 is just trying to migrate the power of Mimir away from a handful of kind of devs on the core team to put it completely in the hands of the node operators of this network, who are, anonymous individuals across this world who have the power and the ability to be able to pause trading if there's something really, fishy going on that doesn't looks bad.
Yeah, I think it's just yet another area of like research into decentralized governance where THORChain is really just excelling, above and beyond any other projects. Like THORChain is already operationally the most complex blockchain, just in pure infra sense and in like pure coordination. Like it has to be constantly scanning blocks from 9 different blockchains and then committing those blocks onto its own blockchain. There's so many different places for things to go wrong. Like operationally, it's already incredibly difficult, and we're still striving to make it even more decentralized. So, it's like in a centralized exchange, like on Bitcoin, for example, if there's high gas and they'll just pause withdrawals or deposits. So like in a centralized exchange, you don't get to see like why that decision was made. You just have a status page that says, like deposits are paused, and it's like, okay, well, can't get my money now. The fact that like all of the coordination and communication between the security teams and the node operators is all happening in the open in the dev Discord, like it's incredible, and we're constantly even just engineering new ways that are making it harder for ourselves. So I think that is just a testament to like our commitment to decentralization and really leveling the playing field there.
Brought someone up, Charles.
Yeah, how are you guys doing?
Excellent. What's going on, man?
So I was listening to this, and I hadn't planned on saying anything, but I do have an observation. I've been using THORChain for about 3 weeks, but very extensively, and I think it's spectacular. But you're talking about improving the performance. Just my opinion would be that your dev resources would be better spent working on updating the UI so that the user could see exactly where the swap process was.
Which
Oh,
interface are you using?
yeah.
I don't know, whatever's on a browser. So both Thor Swap and THORChain, both Thor Wallet. I'm using, I think, all of them. But it's like, if you do DoorDash, I don't care if my food gets here in 45 minutes. I know exactly where the hell it is. And I think that would go a long way to comforting new users as
For
opposed
sure.
to making stuff faster, which is good, but I think it'd be a much more productive use of time to just make it more transparent and more updates. That's all.
I completely agree, Charles. Imagine you're a Trust Wallet user, for example, and this is something that we're striving to work with different integration partners to make this experience better, because we built a tool for it in house because we just saw like how bad most of the support was for transaction status across the ecosystem. So if you actually go to track.9realms.com, we can post maybe a link at the top of this thing. Cal, if you want to just take like a random transaction that's currently in progress and like post it into the space, so everyone can kind of see, like, I think that's a lot more like what you would be looking for. And we're trying to get more wallets and teams to like adopt this tracker because it's just better than almost everything else. And yeah, like if you go like some wallets like Trust, they only like give you a link to the Bitcoin transaction that you sent into the network. It's like, well, that doesn't tell you anything. That doesn't tell you like whether THORChain saw it, whether THORChain is like currently processing it, whether it's scheduled in THORChain, or whether it's been broadcast by THORChain. So there's a lot of different stages that a transaction can be at while it's being processed by THORChain.
Right.
And none of those are really like, you don't really see those stages. You just know that it took 2 hours from the time you submitted the transaction till you received your funds. So I agree. It would go a long way if people had better visibility into it.
Yeah, so maybe just one single web page that every user tool could could view.
We try to strive to have multiple products and multiple web pages that all serve the same purposes. And for this, in the spirit of resiliency and decentralization, like we don't want anyone to rely on our tooling or on THORSwap's tooling or on anyone's tooling. But yeah, I think every project who's out there and who's listening, like we all have a vested interest in investing more in the user interfaces around like just transaction status. I think that's a really good call out.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
want to
and
know where
you guys can
where
check. I
my
pinned
food is.
the yeah.
You want to know where your
So
food is?
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. So okay, so
This isn't
to
a
help with that,
Wendy's. This isn't a
Pluto
Wendy's.
Pluto mentioned the 9realms transaction tracker. So I just pinned it up above, a link to it. It's just track.9realms.com. And basically, it goes through the endpoints for you, and it says like, "Hey, your Bitcoin transaction. You just put in your Bitcoin hash right there, whatever you sent out. Um, you just put that in there, or if it's you might see it in that transaction tracker. There's like a little thing that shows you the in progress swaps and stuff. So you could just basically just go onto the transaction tracker, and it gives you estimates for like, hey, we think this will take this amount of time. Your swap is streaming right now. ETA, 30 minutes for this, and then 1 hour outbound delay after that. You should expect it in this amount of time. So like that's a tool that's super useful for anybody, and yeah, something that we provided to Trust Wallet, who they're going to be using that for their users. They're already using that, and it's available for any interface to white label. So like obviously the core of THORChain is built completely differently from the front ends, who are built by other teams. So like they should develop their own solutions or just use 9realms' track solution, because it's really been a help for me, especially like doing swaps and helping other people like track the status of their swap. It's so easy because you just see like, hey, well, right now it's just in the queue. This is the ETA, and then it always gets there in the end. It's just knowing what's going on, and that was something we developed after listening to feedback from users saying the exact same thing as what you said. So thanks for providing that.
Yeah, also just want to add, THORswap's tracker has had major improvements. I'm not sure if you saw it. When your swap is pending, you can click Open Details, and that expands a view where you see something really similar. Like you see the inbound, you see the swap, you see the next aggregator swap if that's there, then the transaction back to your wallet, all with links and stuff. So yeah, maybe that's just something that needs to be made more obvious in the UI. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that.
I use that all the time. It does, however, seem to get hung up occasionally.
Yeah, sometimes I've seen that as well, and I'm sure they're working on smoothing those things out.
All right,
yeah, and make sure you report bugs and stuff when you see them, because it's like that's the only really way that the devs can just continue to improve the product, is just whenever there's something, you just open a ticket in the right interface and you let them know, so that way they can actually fix things, because there's always things to be fixed, and infrastructure is changing, and there's a lot to track.
What's the right interface?
Well, if you're on THORswap, that'd be THORswap. So like just to kind of zoom out again, especially not just for you but for other people, but these interfaces are not THORChain itself, right? THORChain is a blockchain that's handling these cross-chain swaps and all these other features, right? The interfaces are like applications that users can use that plug into THORChain for liquidity, offer THORChain services in the back end, other liquidity sources in some cases too, right? So like, yeah, if you're using THORswap, then that would be like a THORswap interface question. So you'd want to contact THORswap support. If you're using Trust, that'd be Trust. If you're using THORwallet, that's THORwallet. These things are all using THORChain on the back end, but they're kind of, these are interface specific, like applications.
All right. Got it.
Logan, what's up?
Oh, I just put my chickens away. I got like 12 chickens, man, and they sleep in their coops, It's that time of the day. But
you have urban chicken coops? Because I also hear sirens in the background.
Yeah.
If you need a tractor, I know somebody that might have a tractor that can help you out if you get to that point.
Nah, man, I'm just chilling, man. I'm excited. Like, I mean, fuck, dude, smashed through $6. I knew this was coming. I told people, I told everyone that THORChain Room could 10x faster than they think, and we're approaching that. So kudos to the devs and everybody that's been putting in the work and holding, and I think we're just getting warmed up, really. Like this is the beginning phase of the bull market, baby. Still so many people are in disbelief. It's fucking hilarious. Like, you pump by some of these projects pump by like 20% and everyone sells, and then they're immediately buying back higher as soon as that retrace is over and we pump again. So cheers to everyone that's like really kind of sat through the worst bear market of all fucking time. And what I would say is now is not the time to sell, not financial advice, obviously, but we waited 2+ years and went through hell. And this is the beginning and where it gets real fun. So definitely strap in for the ride, because this thing, I think we're blasting off to Valhalla, boys.
Hell yeah, man! Thanks for your support. I know I've seen you around for a while, so we really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Logan and a lot of the other crypto Twitter verse. Keep on posting, tweeting, talking, educating people about what it is that we do and why we're valuable and why we matter, why we contribute a lot of purpose to this industry. So it's not just the devs writing the code, but it's also the community just getting the word out there and educating people. So shout out to you, Logan, and others in the audience who've been doing that.
Well, you guys keep on doing you guys keep on shipping cool products and give me content to make, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much in crypto that's just the same freaking thing, and it's just boring, and it's just like slight iterations or changes, and like what you guys are doing is just it's so I mean, I knew that it was the possibility and potential was there, but it was just like a little clunky last time around. Now it's smooth and normies can use it, and it makes sense, right? And we're seeing that. I mean, you just go look at the volume. Like, that's the chart that you really need to pay attention to. If that thing keeps on going up into the right, and Rune is obviously following, but from a product standpoint, seeing that volume grow, like, that shit gets me excited. That is like the true test of knowing, all right, this works, and how fast we're climbing. Oh my God. Like, what, we were just at 100 million, and then we're like, oh man, this is great. And now what's the highest volume that it peaked at, Chad?
In a day?
511 million.
That was like from like within a week, it went from like, okay, record broken at 2 to 5, right? So like getting to 1 billion, I think that can happen a lot faster. Totally. I mean, if Bitcoin keeps on going up, like if Bitcoin breaks through, and I think Bitcoin's gonna like probably tap around 40 and then come back down, maybe kind of like fake people are out around like 32, maybe like 31, but so many people are like ready to fucking buy. So I just think that whenever Bitcoin really makes that next leg up, if it breaks through 40, THORChain's going to a billion in a day. I think that's going to happen way faster than we expect, right? Like, it could happen even within like a week if shit gets like really bullish, right? That ETF approval, everything else.
You have no idea. It's going to be that. It's going to be the ETF approval and like just general macro conditions into 2024, and then the integrations. You guys have no idea. I'm literally not trying to like this is not like clickbait or anything. Like, there's some crazy shit in the pipe.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Exciting. By the way,
what Chad was saying before about just like the community and everything. Sorry, Chad, I'll let you go right after. The community is really what lets us land those integrations. Like, that's how we started powering the swaps behind Trust Wallet, and that's exactly what happened to get us onto the path with Ledger, which is like super imminent, obviously. So, I mean, not to say like things going to happen tomorrow. Things take a long time, but it's because of the community that we get to land these huge integrations, and that's what's going to drive just such a crazy amount of volume coming in the future. Because every single one of these high volume days, like these are venues where people are like signing huge amounts of assets, right? And just opening up those rails, like that's our one of our main focuses is getting into more and more wallets and dexes and stuff. And that's where we're gonna really go crazy with volume, because right now this is Trust Wallet volume. Like, this isn't even like 2 Trust Wallet volume.
Dude, it took 11 months to land Trust Wallet, and you're right. It was literally our community constantly hounding them on Twitter for like 11 months, being like, add THORChain swaps, add THORChain swaps. Finally, one day we just saw the tweet, and they're like, all right, we hear you. We're gonna add them. Like, I feel like half the time we find out that integrations are like on a roadmap from, you know, someone just like posting on Twitter from, you know, I think we found out about like the initial Ledger integration. They were like, okay, fine, we're going to do this. And then they got in touch with us afterwards. So it's, yeah, the community outreach definitely helps. And our community has been here through the bear market, just really helping us to land those.
And talking with their team this summer when we were over there at their offices and stuff, just like talking with the Ledger team just about the product and just like, you know, really getting them into like doing cross-chain swaps in Ledger. Yeah, they were like your community is just like absolutely just insane. Like they made a point to say that to me. So like
Fanatics.
I mean, that's what it takes, honestly. And like it's like a strong thing to be a part of, because it's obvious that like what's being built here is like, you know, the decentralized exchange, like the decentralized exchange. Like like as in we don't really need any of these other little bullshit exchanges anymore. That kind of exchange.
Yeah.
I was just going to add, we're 25 minutes from the daily volume resetting, and it's sitting at 433.47 million. Goes up by like 200K every time I refresh, pretty much. And that's like, I mean, that's right up there with the all-time high days just a few days ago. So it's pretty sick to see like the consistency kind of setting in.
Yeah, like if you look at the tweet I shared at the top here, and you can see like there's a clear like, you know, upward angle of the volume increasing over the last, you know, few weeks or month, whatever it's been. And it's funny because like we were now surpassed the volume of October. We've already, you know, well past, which I think is $3 billion last October. It's halfway through the month, and we're already, you know, we're almost at 4 billion at this point. And so people are saying that we're going to get like maybe 6 billion this month. But I'm thinking to myself, like, if the volume keeps kind of moving in the direction it's been moving for the last like month or so, then it's probably not going to be 6 billion. It's probably be closer to like 7 or 8 or something, you know, considerably larger,
Yeah.
which would be awesome.
Also, we didn't
It's insane. I mean, I think our like 1 year of volume was 7 billion in 2020, between 2021 and 2022. So like that, that's just the natural progression of things. It's like a year to get 7 billion, a month to get 7 billion, and then a day to get 7 billion. That's the next.
Insane.
Do you guys have any idea where the volume is coming from? Like sexes or other market makers or?
I mean, you can look on chain.
you can look on chain. You can see a lot of the volume is coming from THORSwap, and a lot of the volume is coming from Trust Wallet. And you can kind of see who's doing the thing, but it's hard for us to know. And to be honest, there's a part of me that doesn't really want to know where the volume's coming from.
Sure. I just thought maybe somebody's tracing it back to like a Binance wallet or something like that.
I don't know if there's like that much kind of analysis. I mean, somebody could do that if they want to jump on that, but like,
yeah, we need Ben Bernard and those guys to come up with some new dash. Like I want to see how many new swappers have come in just recently, stuff like that. You know, would be really cool to see. Also, just one thing we didn't like specifically touch on with the volume, but this is also insane for all the interfaces as far as affiliate fee revenue and that being baked into THORChain. So like those are just like, you know, absolutely ripping with THORChain volume, like seeing THORSwap fees going crazy. XDeFi has gone up a ton. Like I'm sure like pretty much just down the whole list, I think.
Can you share your revenue numbers? Do you know them?
I mean, I look at the 9realms dashboard, to be honest. I look at the affiliates.9realms because that seems to be the most, that one seems to update like it the most in real time. So I'm usually just checking there.
Does anyone know, Cal, have you calculated THORSwap's, their total affiliate fees in the last 30 days?
Yeah, I was literally about to right now. I actually just pressed the wrong button though. Yeah, give me another. I was about to swoop in there. Smoothest thing you've ever seen. But
I think they picked up like $150,000 in 2 days over the weekend, which is just
it was 3 days. I did that calc on Monday. It was 3 days, but yes.
How is that possible? I mean, our dashboard is only showing 22,660.
Today is at 7,900.
Wow.
Sorry, say that again. I think your audio cut out. At least it did for me. I'm not sure if it cut out for other people.
Everyone's using our affiliate dashboard all at once, and I think we're
Very slow.
crashing it.
Actually, it's probably true.
Yeah.
Can only handle
So
Yeah,
one
they're
person at a
spectating
time.
it. They're
we'll
Get
come
in
back to you
line.
guys with that, but I think that narrative has been extremely helpful in just speaking in conversations with other integrators, like being able to show people on chain how much absolute cash THORSwap is making is just like, it's a strong narrative. Like the amount of inbound we've had for integrations in the last couple weeks has eclipsed that of any other time in our history, obviously.
Pluto, should we share anything on new affiliate fee sources, or should we wait on that?
I think we can wait on that.
All
Let's
right.
let the ink dry a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's some pretty big things happening, but I don't think we can talk about it quite yet. I don't think we're allowed to.
Yeah. This is just like in terms of integrators. And so that's really one of the only places where, and that's where it's tough, like running a decentralized network and wanting to strive for transparency all the time, but then also like, having conversations with wallets that kind of want to own they want to own their PR, and they want to own their brand, and they want to own their,
Yeah.
communications with their customers. So it's not really our place to announce integrations for them. So you guys will just have to pay attention and, keep listening. But, our partners will be announcing some very big things in the coming weeks and months.
Come on, Pluto. It's not just very big. It's fucking massive. It's fucking massive.
Yeah, integrators are going to make a lot of money through affiliate fees. That's just the bottom line. With how much volume, big wallets and things can put out, and wallets are like the perfect spot to put a THORChain swap, because it like everything THORChain bakes down to L1s, which is like you need the signer, like you need the wallet. So like there's so much potential here for wallets to just make so much money. Like in 2021, how much did a Consensus make off of affiliate fees, off of just those trades right in MetaMask? It was like hundreds of millions of dollars in 2021. Obviously, like that's just
That's
so much.
ludicrous.
Yo, here's an idea for you guys, Chad, THOReau, that on THORSwap, you guys need to build like a universal widget that can just be embedded on any website. Like, when you go to like a CoinDesk article and you're reading about like some,
Oh yeah.
some shit coin, but then like at the bottom of that article, it's like buy and then like some completely unrelated coin. That's because that coin is paying CoinDesk to like pay to embed a swap widget on however many articles, and they're maybe doing like a revenue split or a fee on anyone who makes, basically anywhere on the internet where you're talking about crypto is a potential touch point for users to buy crypto using your protocol. And so there's going to be all kinds
Yeah.
of, we're still in such early days in terms of like affiliate businesses, but like that's going to be kind of like that's going to be the bread and butter for THORChain going forward, is like communities basically, putting swaps, serving up swaps to their audiences, and then like splitting the revenue with the protocol.
Yeah, I love that idea. I know that there's been some work done on that. I don't know where it stands, but I'll poke them and ask around, because I agree with you. I mean, that could be freaking massive, huge opportunity.
For sure. Man, what else? We talked about anything else big coming this year? Like, for anyone that missed it, like, we did our Q4 kind of road mapping in early October. So like Q4 is basically being earmarked for just sort of like stability and performance. That's why we've been talking so much about like security, outbound queues, confirmation counting, swapper clout. All those things are kind of like towards this, this effort of like make sure that we can meet the growth that we're like looking to see in the next couple months. So we've really taken our foot off the gas in terms of like major new features, but I think like, some of the things that we've landed this year, like savings and lending have obviously been huge. Oh, aren't we celebrating the 1 year anniversary of savings? Did I miss that part?
Oh, happy birthday. Yep, I think so.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that, but yeah, it's been a year of Savers. I have some old Savers screenshots that I can't wait to share once it hits a year from when I took the screenshots, because there's been so much growth over this past year, man. It's absolutely insane. And Savers yields, we mentioned this at the beginning, Savers yields are just popping off right now. And that's because when Rune goes up, rewards go to LPs. And there's so many fees going through the network that Savers yields are just absolutely insane.
Can't believe it's been a year. That's crazy. Kind of feels like less.
It's crazy. Lending too has also been taking off in recent weeks. Just like usage of the entire protocol across the board has been up and to the right across every single metric. I remember we had the first. There's that like Thor info bot that tweets out like the weekly stats. I remember like the first time, like 3-4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, that was like green across the board, and we were like celebrating that because we're like, wow, like everything went up, like savers, new loans, unique swappers, volume, like every single metric THORChain is killing it on. And then it just kept happening week after week, like green, green, green. So that's really awesome to see. Those are two amazing features. Just shout out to Chad and to all the teams that helped land those this year, like savers and lending specifically. But yeah, I think in the new year we have order books and memo lists. Those are both exciting features. Maybe you want to talk about those, Chad?
Yeah, we can talk about those. I kind of want to just touch upon real quick. I think that I'm really kind of excited and bullish about too, is that tomorrow I'm recording an interview with Eric Voorhees on Bankless. I've been trying to get on Bankless for fucking years because it's like the biggest podcast in crypto, basically, right? It's massive. It's such a successful, podcast or medium. So to go on Bankless with Eric, side by side and kind of talk about and educate and tell people about why THORChain is so important and how it provides such significant value for the entire industry is such a to me such a bullish sign. So hopefully I'll do right by the community and do a solid interview. But I think if this thing goes really well, it could be friggin' epic for the protocol.
Yeah, for sure. Super excited about hearing you on that tomorrow. We'll definitely be tuning in and cheering for you guys. I still think that they're gonna set some traps, set some landmines. They ask good questions. Questions that their listener base wants to hear. But
yeah, I brought the big guns. I got Eric Voorhees to represent here. So
yeah, this is like a dream come true. I mean, the number of we could probably dig up like 50 different times in crypto Twitter history where we've gone back and forth with those guys and it didn't happen, right? So it's pretty exciting for it to finally be coming together, and with Eric, that's just like what we dreamed of. So I'm really excited to hear it. Do you know if they like publish right away, or do you know kind of like when it's going to be up?
No, I have no idea how long it takes them to do like the cutting and editing and all that kind of stuff. So the recording's tomorrow, but I don't know if it's going to go up on like tomorrow or like Monday or what. But it should hopefully come out relatively quickly after. It'll be a fun episode to watch.
Are you prepped? Are you thoroughly moisturized and ready to go on this? Like,
yeah, I took my oil bath this morning to get all ready for it. My oil surgery. No, I'm prepped. I'm ready to go. I mean, I've been talking about THORChain for fucking years. So, and I know a good amount about it, and I can more or less handle any question fairly well. I feel very confident about that. And if I can't, I'll just throw it over to Eric, and Eric will knock out of the fucking water. He's one of the most articulate people in our industry. So, I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling ready. And if they want to throw me a curveball, bring it the fuck on. I wish more people did, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man. Good luck. Hopefully everything goes good. Yeah, I mean, you and Eric are just gonna kill it for sure. And you know what? Maybe you can show some more people just that the value behind like what's being built here, and just working every day towards creating a better exchange for everything. So
We should get the community to grab as many highlights from that interview as possible, and
Oh,
I don't
that's
know,
key.
maybe even some kind of like little competition or something, just to get like the best highlight clips and get those circulating. That'd
Get some good
be
sound. Let's get some good sound bits going. If we can
exactly.
create some good sound bits, that'd be amazing. Um, to Pluto's point about order books, to me, like I'm very excited about this particular feature. I think it's going to be like very positive for the protocol because it's introducing the protocol to a new type of user, like from moving away from your kind of average swapper and moving to a more professional tool set for professional traders in a sense, and giving them more kind of powerful tools to execute like cross-chain swaps in a decentralized way. I'm very excited about this concept. I think it could be really, really important for the protocol. And I think the other thing I'm really excited about is that it gives the ability for arbitrage bots to arb, trades proactively rather than reactively. And so theoretically, you could have a streaming swap happen in a single block with this kind of technology, which would be highly efficient for people who want to do massive trades. It would just execute a lot faster than it does today. It's such a great feature, but we'll get to it, I'm sure, at some point, hopefully. But it's such a powerful thing for the protocol.
Yeah, I'm coming around to it, especially based on the argument that it allows like the R bots, because I think that's kind of like the network is going to start to be constrained by how well it can arbitrage, and we want to give arbs every tool possible to do that as efficiently as possible. So it's just a win-win in terms of like better prices for the swappers and better fees for the LPs because they're getting better tighter pricing. What else are you excited, MK? Like again, I always like to hear from you, Chad, about like what's next because it always has seemed like an endless an endless spigot of new features, but like after you ship like memoless transactions, which I think is going to help land a number of integrations, and the order book stuff, which is going to help provide better, tighter pricing, and just a new product experience, as you said. What else? What next? Is there ever going to be a day when we can consider this protocol feature complete?
That's a funny question. So to me, it's just like I'm up for new features as long as they provide a significant value to the protocol, right? And I don't want to name names, but I've seen other like dexes implement new features that are just like, whoop-de fucking do. Like it adds a lot of complexity without really adding a lot of value. And I would argue that like all the features we've added, at least 90% of them, have paid off more than I would have guessed when I was starting to like build it or write the code for it or whatever. So like I do feel like the features we do add are very powerful and they really structurally change the value proposition of the protocol to be much more significant than it was the day prior. But if you want to get some alpha for the future of like what we could do, a couple of things that I have in mind is we talked about perps before, which is a really interesting concept that would just create a 10x in volume trading just naturally from perps, and it would also potentially generate a lot of revenue for the reserve, which would be a really positive thing for the protocol long term. I'm also really bullish on the idea of derived assets and making them publicly available. And for that, you don't even need a code chain. You could actually turn that on today if you really wanted to. But that would be really positive because it would create an actual algo stablecoin that actually fucking works. And we're proving it now. We're in the proving cycle at this particular moment. And if it is as effective as I think that it is, to make it even more effective, you could actually export that asset to external chains, right? You could actually export the Tor stablecoin asset to Ethereum and to AVAX and to BSC and other places, and you can actually create a highly in demand stablecoin asset that would be extremely decentralized, right?
So like, hang on, back up for everyone again, because you got to realize there's so many people that are listening.
That's true. That's true.
Who have no idea what Tor is. So we want to explain derived assets and what they are and what Tor's role is in THORChain.
Yes. So a derived asset is kind of like a synthetic, right? Technically, it is actually, it's not a wrapped asset, because that's a little bit different. A synthetic asset is something that is derived by the value of something else, and a wrapped asset is its value is derived by the asset that it's representing. And so a derived asset is a synthetic that's derived from the network itself, from Rune itself specifically. So whenever we open loans today, we use derived assets as the collateral, and then we send you, we use Tor which is basically our stable coin, more or less, that is used as the debt for your loan. So right now, the Tor stablecoin, algo stablecoin, exists today. It's running in the network. It has been for actually longer than people actually probably even realize. It's been out there for probably over a year, but it's had very insignificant kind of role within the protocol, and it's just been kind of like running in the background on a very small scale, right?
Right, because
and
it's
so
not holdable. It can't be. You can't swap into it and hold a balance of it.
right,
It's only used as the unit of account for the lending feature.
correct. So the market cap of Tor is always zero, right? And so because of that, it doesn't really offer much of a threat to the protocol, because you can't, mint 1.3 trillion Rune from zero. That just doesn't that's just completely illogical. So it doesn't really hold any kind of threat to the protocol, but it does allow us to do something really important, which is we can run it on mainnet, run it in production, run it in the real world. We can watch the pegging mechanism and see how it performs, and like just objectively look at the data. And if there's something we see that's going wrong, or we don't like, we can make tweaks or changes to improve some things. Thus far, we haven't needed to improve anything. It's been literally perfect from day one for the most part. So it's just like, it's very, very effective way of kind of validating the design before you actually like roll some weight behind it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Which
You want to talk about the design and how it's different from something like UST or Luna, for example?
Yes, it's very different. It's funny. I spent a good amount of time studying a lot of algo stables in the past, just for the giggles of it. But they all fail for different reasons. To be fair, right? They never fail for the same reason. It's always a different trigger that causes it. But there are like fundamental design flaws in all of them. And even in our Tor design we had that before UST collapsed, and we were aware of some of the flaws in the design, and so we designed ours without those flaws, and then it made it very apparent what those flaws are when the whole thing rolled up into zero. But how Tor is different than UST, or one of the very important things, is that it does not have necessarily its own pegging mechanism in the same way that UST does, or USDC, or DAI, or LUSD. Those independently derive their own value, or their own like pegging mechanism through a series of mechanisms of buying and selling of assets, blah, 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 whatever, right? That's not how Tor works at all. Tor is actually more apt to call it, it's more of an index of stables, right? So it derives its value from the pegging of all the stables of the industry, more or less, or at least a large handful of them, right? And so we are always in the middle of all those stables. So USDC, USDT, PayPal USD, I think is one of them. I think LUSD is another one. DAI is another one. I think Fraxis might want to be one of them. Maybe, I'm not really quite sure, but like there's a whole bunch of them. And we just derive our value from the middle of all those guys.
And why hasn't that been done before?
It hasn't been done before for a few reasons. We are a cross-chain AMM, and so we have the ability to connect more things than anybody else. Like we can connect to Ethereum, we can connect to AVAX, we can connect to a bunch of different things, and we can aggregate the market. Right, individual systems like on Ethereum, whatever, they have limited access to what they can connect to. For us, we can connect to as many stables, like BUSD is a good example of a stable outside of Ethereum or whatnot. And so we can connect to more and have a better sample of the industry whole, the index of the entire stablecoin market, than any other project in crypto, with the exception of Maya, because they're a fork of us, right? So it's much more. It mathematically has to perform more stable than any of the stable coins that it's connected to, because it derives its value from the middle, the median, not the average, but the median of the totality of all those things. So it naturally just fluctuates.
That's based on the pool depths of those respective stable coins on THORChain itself.
Right. So what's actually kind of maintaining the peg, quote unquote, is just arbing the pools. It's not about them being exposed to Rune or dumping UST or whatever. It's just like, can I buy and sell USDC or USDT or LUSD or whatever? Can I buy and sell that at a profit as an ARB bot? And the answer almost always is yes. And so they constantly are arbing these things to make sure the price is whatever. So as long as the network is functioning properly, like in terms of the context of like ARBs are able to ARB, then everything is fine, right? Even in the scenario where ARBs can't ARB and everything is kind of going protocol, we can just like pause things temporarily, let things kind of calm down, let the dust settle, and then resume things, without a hitch.
Yeah, it's an interesting design. Can you? So if it is an aggregate of sort of the pricing of all the tokens on THORChain, or all the stables on THORChain, what prevents you from, like, for example, manipulating the price of the pools on THORChain in order to change the the value of the underlying stable THOR asset?
Yes, this is actually one of the design flaws of UST that we saw early on, that we wanted to kind of get away from and have to think of a more decentralized way of solving that particular problem. For us, what we do is this: is that the pool that you swap your THOR with Rune or THOR with whatever you're trying to get, that pool that is used is what we call like a virtual pool. There are no LPs of that pool. It just exists mathematically. It doesn't exist from actual assets being added, as Rune is burnt and minted to create the THOR, and THOR is burnt and minted to create the Rune, so forth and so on. And so what we can do, what's very interesting, is that because we can in live time know the trade volume of the layer one assets of the USDC, USDT, LUSD, DAI, blah, 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 whatever. So if you did want to price manipulate these things, you have to take a majority of those pools and push a large quantity of value through those things to push the price from $1 to $10 or $1 to 10 cents or whatever, whichever direction you're trying to push it. You would take a lot of value and to push it, right? So we would know in real time, as somebody's trying to manipulate the price, that we can know that, hey, there's a really unusual volume of traffic going through these stablecoin pools, and by doing so, it makes the virtual pool much more shallow, right? And so the more you try to push the price to $1.10 or $1.20 or $1.30, the pool just gets thinner and thinner and thinner and smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where if you wanted to make $10 million, you would pay 99% in fees and make 1% in the actual fucking trade. You get wrecked in the whole process.
So right now there's no incentive to try to manipulate the value of THOR, because THOR is only used as a debt instrument in the lending feature. But if THOR were holdable by people, there would be an incentive to try to manipulate the pools. For example, you could hold 1 million THOR and then make it worth 10 million THOR if you were able to push the price of THOR up. But what you're saying is that if you then magically had $10 million worth of THOR, THOR was not valued at $1 anymore, it was valued at 10, it still wouldn't matter, because to swap that $10 million worth of THOR back through to like Bitcoin, for example, or whatever, you would pay so much slippage because the virtual pool was so thin. Is that kind of what is that the mechanism?
Exactly.
How it prevents?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you couldn't do that using a streaming swap, because in a streaming swap takes a lot of time, right? You're making the trade over time, and if you're doing that, then you have to maintain that price manipulating cost. So ARBs are trying to ARB against you. You're trying to manipulate the price to be $10 instead of $1. ARBs and all of their millions of dollars are being pushed against you to push the price back down to $1. And you have to maintain that fight against ARBs over time, which would be even more expensive. So it's just it becomes so exhaustively expensive that it becomes mathematically impractical to actually launch this kind of attack. In UST's terms, what they did to solve this problem is they just used the validators to push the price of Luna from centralized exchanges, got the pricing from centralized exchanges, and then they just turned off the mechanism to correct the price for once so much trading occurred in a particular 24-hour period, which I guess is effective in that regard. But then if you just turn off the arbing system of the token price of UST, then for half the day, then then you've just basically depegged, because the thing that you're using to maintain the peg has been turned off for half the fucking day it's not going to work out so well. That's why the LFG was created, to like create a big bouncer with $6 million in its pocket to like artificially maintain the price after the primary market like shuts off. We don't have to do that. Our primary market runs 24/7 without anybody needing to do anything other than arbs just arbing layer one Ethereum, USDC, and other assets.
For sure. It's cool. It's fun to think about.
It's pretty awesome. Like, to me, I'm very excited about this concept. It's finally solving the problem. It's like Thomas Edison kind of creating a light bulb and trying 1,000 different metals before he found the one that worked. To me, like algo stables is the same in the sense that like it's harder to get it right, but if you get it right, it's the fucking light bulb, right? Whereas over collateralized stable coins, it's easy to get it right in some sense, but it's not a light bulb. It's like kind of a half light because it's very capital efficient. You run the risk of like the collateral going to fucking, mixing too fast, and you can lose value, become insolvent, which has happened to DAI in the past. It's really not a great actual solution from a first principles perspective. Algo stables actually work extremely well. They're very effective as long as you have a good fucking design and a good implementation.
So Chad, if we were to land order books, the Tor stablecoin, publicly tradable, and perps, can we finally stop building new stuff, please?
I know you want to stop the building. One of the other things I have in mind, that we don't have to do this or not, it's up to the community to decide whether they want to do this. But one of the things we could do that's really interesting is that you can make THORChain interact, and its assets to interact with smart contracts on any blockchain. So if you, instead of building CosmWasm for THORChain, where you can build your own smart contracts on top of THORChain and use its assets and whatnot to its LP positions and Rune and derived assets and synthetics, blah, blah, blah. Instead of building CosmWasm on THORChain and adding the complexity to our chain, and also adding some more throughput in terms of like the volume going through the network in terms of transactions, you can actually just like export them easily to Ethereum and to BSC and to Osmosis, and theoretically pretty much anything out there. And that you can do that in a very clean and simple way that's actually not very complicated. It's actually a small code change. But by doing so, you basically created a significant new demand center for the assets of being an LP or being a saver or being these things, whatever it might be, being a validator potentially. And you can do liquid staking of your validator things and use your validator position to get a loan on Ethereum for this or something. I don't know. It could arbitrarily do a lot of different things theoretically. And that would be super valuable for the protocol. Whether we do that or not is a different topic, and it's not something I've been really like pushing for or talking very much about, but it's a very fascinating idea that could be really, really valuable for the protocol.
Yeah. I still think though that like one of the most important things that you can do as a protocol is basically just figure out, find your product market fit, figure out where you compete best, what you can do better than everyone else, and just stick to that and absolutely knock it out of the park. Like this can be a $10 billion protocol if we get even just 1 to 1.5% of all of the Bitcoin in the world locked inside of it. So it's like, yeah, the new features are great, but at a certain point, like what really gives people the confidence is actually to bring up Kenton's point, I think you get more confidence when you make less changes. When the product is more stable and more predictable, that's when people finally start to get confident about it, because we've proven already that we offer the best offer in the game. For if you're holding Bitcoin, it's the best product that you can use to, if you're just perpetually long Bitcoin, you can borrow against it, and not pay any interest and not suffer any liquidations. You can get Bitcoin yield on your Bitcoin through savers. Like we've already built the ultimate product in DeFi, and so like at this point or at some point, you just really have to just say, okay, like we've built something incredible here. Like, let's just like lock it down and let it rip. That's kind of what I've been.
Well,
I agree.
I can see
all
where
these
you're coming. I can see
composability
where you're
is
coming.
and something we should strive for. That's. Are you referring to just like the arbitrary message passing feature?
That's something else. That's a different feature. That's also that was a very small code change, but also potentially very valuable for the industry as a whole. It's not really being used quite yet. I don't think it's going to be used anytime soon. But once we are a much bigger protocol, I think there'll be a more widely used feature in the future. I think at some point. But I think that like when you step back and you look at THORChain and look at what it's accomplished as a protocol, almost everything we've built, almost everything, is in itself a revolution, right? Everything we've done, we are doing something that nobody else is doing on anything, including like the Ethereum world is building all these smart contracts that do all these things, and they're just like forking Uniswap and adding a small, configuration change to it or something kind of silly and not really valuable. But like what we have done for lending, for savers, for AMMs, for a lot of synthetics, like what we have done is so far and away better, objectively better. Some are not proven, like lending hasn't been proven yet, for example. But these things are in themselves revolutionary, and to apply these things not just to, Ethereum and apply them globally across the industry is so valuable that it's hard to calculate. You're right that if we just did the AMM by itself and did nothing else, and we just did regular AMM with regular LPs and no savers and no lending and no synthetics, like that by itself, to be fair, would be a 10, or $20 billion, a coin to be, to be objective. But like, if you add the other things, which we are doing and nobody else can or is able to, because we are innovating things here that nobody is doing, there's no reason not to do it. Well, not no reason, but there's really strong reason to do it because of the amount of value proposition that we can add to the community, the amount of value we can provide for the world is orders of magnitude of what we can do with just the AMM. And so for me, I'm just like tempted to build these things because I see how valuable they are for the industry. I can't just come up with an amazing idea and say to myself, we'll just stop there. And standing still will just like cause somebody else to surpass it. Will it be Chain Flip or somebody else?
Yeah, Chad, I really love that about you. You just continue to push things forward, and at the end of the day, like you want what's best for the industry. You want to see the industry like just be the best it possibly can be, and like I also want that for the industry. But for me, I'm just like I would be happy for THORChain to be like boring ass BTC rails. All we have is like top 10 chains. We're connected to the top 10 chains, so we're the cross platform. Maybe my imagination isn't as big as yours, but in a way, I feel like you need both of those perspectives. Like you want to continually be pushing the envelope, but you also like there's such a big opportunity here in just like our bread and butter, and that's what I think how our two teams, like the core team and Nine Realms, are attacking the same problem from different angles.
Which is super important and super valuable, right? It is very valuable that we have two different teams with two different mindsets who have two different skill sets and two different ways of looking at the same problem. And that's actually really useful.
Totally. All right. Well, I got to hop. Gonna go grab some dinner, but it was great talking to you. I know we've been talking a lot this week. There's been a lot of fun things to celebrate. I enjoyed our live YouTube code review the other day. That was fun. And yeah, man, can't wait to catch you next week and keep this train rolling.
Later, Pluto.
See you. You guys want to keep going, or what's the move?
See one request. Let's take this last request. Alter ego connecting. Yeah, I gotta hop pretty soon too, actually.
All right, cool. Yeah, we can wrap up after Alter Ego. What's up?
I'm sorry to drive you guys off point. I've been trying to reach support for a long time now. This is off topic. I accidentally sent funds to your Bitcoin address, and I've been trying to get it back. No one is responding to me. Please, I just need help.
Sorry, what do you need help with? What's the
I
issue
I
you're having?
accidentally sent funds to THORChain Bitcoin address. The one that was used for a swap. I accidentally sent funds to it. It was in my clipboard, and I accidentally sent funds to it. So I need it back. I've contacted support on Telegram, and no one's responding to me.
I think, well, it should just refund it unless the amount
It's been 10
is so
days
small that it
now.
won't.
Well,
It's been 10 days.
What it would actually do is make us either a saver's position, or it really depends on where you sent it to. So
Okay,
yeah, you should.
let me explain. So I made a swap for USDT, Ethereum to Bitcoin. That was 10 days ago using Trust Wallet. So I wanted to send the Bitcoin to another address, but I accidentally copied the address that sent me the Bitcoin. And it's a THORChain address. So I sent the Bitcoin there, and it has been there for the past 10 days now. So I just recently found out that it was THORChain because Trust Wallet just told me today that the address belongs to THORChain. So I contacted Telegram and no response.
So let me just pause you right there for a second. Cow was right. So if you just deposited Bitcoin to the address without any memo or anything, which it sounds like that's what you did, then it would have deposited it as a saver's position, which means the Bitcoin's still in the network and you can request it and just withdraw it if you want to withdraw it.
Yeah, the Bitcoin is still in your address.
Yeah. So I'm saying that if you go to a UI and you go to the savers part of whatever UI and you just like withdraw, you can just go ahead and withdraw. Like it's waiting for you to request the money back. So you have to go ahead and request the money back.
Okay, so I have never used THORChain before. I use the inbuilt swap feature in Trust Wallet, so I don't know what you're talking about.
So if you just go to THORswap and then you connect your wallet, your Trust wallet with THORswap using the Wallet Connect feature, and then you go to the Savers UI, wherever that is. I think it's in the menu in the left bar.
Yeah, it's called like Earn or something. You should see it there.
I think that's Earn. Yeah,
and if
Earn,
not, then you should open a ticket with their support and like try and actually figure out what happened. It's definitely you shouldn't just send funds like that. You can make a swap in the wallet and it knows where to send it. But if you just send it to the THORChain wallet, it makes a saver's deposit, like you're adding liquidity. So
yes,
if you sent it to the right address, then it should just be in a saver's position.
So I can still see the coins in the address. It's the only coin there. So I don't know. I don't know the support email.
Yeah, well, if it was a vault that wasn't active, then it might not have even been able to refund, because if it's an inactive vault, they're like what we can't help you right now. I'm sure you understand. Like, you're gonna have to get in contact with a support desk or something. Like, go to the THORswap Discord. Just go to thorswap.finance and their Discord is on there, and they have a ticket system where you can actually have someone look at it and help you out if it's possible. Because if it's at an address that it can't be accessed, then it can't be accessed.
So, yeah,
someone on Telegram told me that the address are retired every 3 days, and that I cannot retrieve the funds back.
Correct. That's if you send to an old address, then and the money wouldn't get resent back to you, then I'm sorry to say that your Bitcoin is gone and you're not gonna get it back. If you send it to a new address or a current address, then it would have been deposited as savers and you can withdraw it and everything's fine. But if you send to if your funds are there and your Bitcoin is the only Bitcoin in that address, then I'm sorry to say, but your Bitcoin is gone.
Sorry, but that doesn't make any sense, because why would it be gone?
Because you send it to an address that the network no longer maintains, in other words.
But you should have the keys to the address, shouldn't you?
No, we don't have any keys to any address because it's special signatures and the keys literally don't exist anywhere.
I don't understand. I really don't understand.
Well, another way I'm saying is that, like, you send it to a wallet that we deleted, more or less. I'm trying to use simpler terms. But, like, if you send it to a wallet that was retired and we moved all the funds to a new wallet, and the old wallet we just kind of threw in the garbage, and then you set your funds there, well, private keys in the garbage. We don't have it anymore.
So there's no way of retrieving the private key?
Correct, by design.
But that's not possible now. Please, it's a lot of money.
I understand that, but when you're sending a lot of money, you generally want to send small amounts first just to test it before sending the full amount.
But the coins are literally there. You've used the address. Why would you say that you can't access it anymore?
Can't. I'm sorry. The network churned, which means it moved the funds from one address to a new address, series of addresses, and deleted the old. And you sent funds to an old address.
So how do you delete an old address? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not a dummy. You can't delete an address on the blockchain. You can't delete a private key. It's not possible. You still have access to that Bitcoin address.
Well, no. So when we do a churn, we change the validator set. It's like, think of it like a multi-sig, right? It was a 3 or 4 multi-sig. And we're changing
You
the people.
still have backups. It's possible to have backups. It's possible to have access to that address. It's never impossible. You can't lose access to that address. I don't believe that.
What I'm trying to say is that, like, think of it like a multi-sig, and there's like a 3 or 4 multi-sig, right? There's 4 people. Me, Chad, and Kenton, and a cow. 4 of us are doing a multi-sig, and we're gonna do a churn. We're gonna Chad and Cow are moving out, and Finn Blue and Coefficient are joining me and Kenton. So we got this new team. So we only have 2 keys from that address. We don't have 3 keys. So because the other people left, they're gone. Cow and Chad THOReau are gone. So we don't have an ability to recover those funds because the validator set has changed, and we don't have an ability to recover those funds.
Yeah, man. You should definitely just get in touch on like Telegram or something. But it's most likely that it's not possible. So I'm really sorry to have to tell you that.
Yeah.
But
that sucks. But have somebody look at it, and then they can confirm for you.
I refuse to believe that. Like, this is literally money I need. I need this money to pay fees, and you can't tell me that I can't access it anymore. It's really sad because by design the design is flawed. If you can't access it anymore,
it is sad, but it's no different than sending Bitcoin to an address that you completely don't have control of. It's just like sending it off into a Bitcoin address.
Yeah, but
that
if I send Bitcoin to an exchange, I know I can get it back because I'll contact the support of that exchange. So THORChain is somewhat like an exchange, a decentralized exchange. So I should be able to get it back.
Right, but the difference is that the company of the centralized exchange has access to the keys. I don't have access to the keys. Chad THOReau doesn't have. Nobody has access to the keys. It's a collective of validators, which we've churned, and not all those validators are around to help you to recover those funds. You don't have enough people, in other words.
Is it possible to contact the validators to get the keys back?
Well, no, they're anonymous for a good reason. I don't know who they are. Chad THOReau doesn't know who they are. This is partly why the network is decentralized, because it's a permissionless system where anybody can become a validator without doxing themselves or identifying themselves or any of these processes. And so anybody can join it, anybody can leave it. And because of that, it's decentralized. But the negative of that is that we don't have control over it. I don't have the ability just to go ahead and take the private keys and move funds. I can't do that.
So you're telling me the funds are lost forever?
From what you're describing right now, it sounds like that is. But if you send funds to an active address, then you can recover your funds. If you send to an inactive address, like an old address, then I'm sorry, that nothing we can do for you.
Yeah, I would say just get some help from support off this space. Somebody will look at it and help you confirm what's going on.
Yeah, we need to wrap it up here. I gotta go. Chad's gotta go. We gotta wrap. Been at this for like 2.5 hours. So
it's a good space though.
Yes, sir. Sorry. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming out. Let's I actually can't do next week. We got stuff next week. Thanksgiving next week actually. And then so I guess next one right at the end of November. 2 weeks, I guess.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Let's fucking go. See you guys in 2 weeks.
See y'all then.
LFG. See ya.